depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at WION.com.
Hello and welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Our cover story tonight is about a revolution that could hit Russia. We tell you what the chief of Wagner has said, what the message is, and why it throws open a very big question. Has the Wagner chief set his eyes on the Kremlin? Will Wagner lead a revolution in Russia? What would this mean and what lies ahead? We discuss that and more shortly. Also on the show for you tonight, Australian universities are banning Indian students from some states. We tell you why that's not the solution to the problem. Are you tired of spam calls? As 48 US states sue a telecom company over billions of robocalls, we ask, isn't it time other parts of the world follow suit? Join WION's campaign. #NoMoreSpam. We also tell you all about the dangers and opportunities as the world gears up for a greater role played by artificial intelligence. We also get to the story of a paralyzed man being able to walk again thanks to artificial intelligence. Stories of suffering and absolute despair continue to trickle in from Syria. We tell you how mothers are being forced to abandon their babies. Will Wagner lead a push against Russian President Vladimir Putin? Will this man, Yevgeny Prigozhin, challenge Putin as Russia's president and lead an insurrection with the help of his army? Currently, Prigozhin is the chief of Russia's mercenary group, Wagner. There was a time Prigozhin used to provide catering services to the Kremlin, and that's how he got the nickname Putin's chef, for organizing the elaborate banquets at the Kremlin. Times have changed so much that we are asking whether Putin's chef is cooking something amiss, whether he is trying to lead a push against Putin. And what do we mean by that? It's when a prominent person from within the ruling clan leads a rebellion against an authoritarian leader. Next question, why will Putin's chef do that? Perhaps to cater to his own ambitions, perhaps to become president. Why do you look surprised? The talks have been doing the rounds for a while now. In fact, last month, a headline in Europe screamed, "Could Wagner boss replace Putin as president?" And the answer was hidden in an interview Wagner recently gave to a Russian political strategist.
When the children of the elite apply cream on themselves and upload it to Instagram, YouTube and so on, and children of ordinary people come back in zinc coffins, teared in pieces, and when a mother cries over her son, or even I was sent a video of a father sitting near a coffin of his son, saying, "Vladimir Vladimirovich, I understand that you award generals with medals. Why did you not award my son?"
This is Wagner pitching Russia's bourgeois against the proletariat, the oligarchs against the ordinary, the Russian regime against Wagner, their alleged lack of empathy against the Wagner troops' bravery. Yevgeny Prigozhin is hinting at a revolution.
All these divisions can end in what is a revolution, just like in 1917. First, the soldiers will stand up, and after that, their beloved ones will rise up. It is wrong to think that there are hundreds of them. There are already tens of thousands of them, relatives of those killed. And there will be probably hundreds of thousands. We cannot avoid that.
Will he be the one leading this revolution? And can he? One thing is for sure, the man has the means. He commands an army of around 40,000 men. 40,000 men. There are many who will tell you that Wagner's men are more competent than Russian soldiers. They will cite Bakhmut, a city Wagner handed to Russia on a platter. It fought an 8-month-long battle and managed to win. It's not like Russians have not taken stock of this victory. And why just Russia, for that matter? Today, Bakhmut is a household name around the war, and so is Wagner. This war has made Prigozhin quite a cult figure. A, he is hitting the headlines on a daily basis. B, he is managing to grab attention with his fiery comments. C, the Wagner group is performing better than expected. And D, all of these are emboldening Wagner. One day he is throwing mud at the Russian defense minister. The next day he is fighting the governor of St. Petersburg. And on another day, headlines are accusing Wagner of attempting power grab. Have a look at this. Just last month, reports said that the Wagner boss was trying to seize control of the Russian political party. The report went on to say, and I'm quoting, Prigozhin was trying to seize control of the Just Russia party, whose leader, Sergei Mironov, recently called Wagner a heroic military formation. Well, Putin just congratulated Wagner for Bakhmut. Will Wagner try to seize Putin's seat as well? European analysts have no doubt that Wagner is trying to play a more central role in Russian politics. Some are even hinting that Wagner may take advantage of the fact that Putin has no clear successor. Wagner may present himself as a man befitting of the Kremlin. Now, if you have been following Prigozhin's career, then you may point to the fact that Putin's chef has always been loyal to his employer. And that is true. Prigozhin got where he is today by doing what the Kremlin or Putin wanted him to do. be it deploying troops in smaller African nations or recruiting men from Russian prisons to take part in the Kremlin's quote-unquote denazification. But do you know what? Loyalty does not always last. In March this year, Prigozhin defied the Kremlin's Nazi narrative. Wagner said he was not sure if there were Nazis in Ukraine. And this is something he repeated in this recent interview.
We spoke about denazification of Ukraine. We've made them a nation known all over the world.
And there have also been reports of Wagner trying to sell out Russian troops. American media saying he was ready to leak Russia's troop location to the West. In recent weeks, we have also seen Wagner arm twisting the Russian regime for weapons, threatening to desert posts. There is a wedge between Wagner and Putin. So what could possibly stop him from playing on the emotions of the war-weary Russians, or the powerful and the moneyed who have had their assets sealed? Or for that matter, those who think the war was a wrong move to begin with. You see, Wagner has a reputation, one that was built by pushing boundaries, by training troops to be ruthless. Wagner has power. And those who know the Wagner boss say he also has it in him to do whatever it takes. Does that include leading a putsch against Putin? Wagner will not tell.
Now for political credo, I love my motherland. I serve Putin.
And even if he decides to go against Putin, the road will not be easy, to say the least. Wagner may have the men, but for the arms, it is dependent on the Russian Defense Ministry. Also, it will be foolish to think that Putin will sit still as Wagner leads a push against him. Remember, this is Vladimir Putin we are talking about after all. His critics have been found dead or poisoned in some of the world's most off-radar places. How many of you knew about Salisbury before Sergei and Yulia Skripal were found left to die there? Those who managed to survive poisoning go straight to jail. We have told you about Alexei Navalny, right? Today, Wagner is praising him.
Navalny was a total douchebag, but he was very useful when some sort of head of a corporation snatched some money and Navalny started squealing about it. It was dangerous to siphon off money. And now when Navalny is in prison, there's no Navalny. So snatch the money and run away. No questions asked.
So you see what he's trying to do here? Kill two birds with one stone. Throw mud at the regime, accuse it of corruption, and also win over Navalny supporters. And that's not even all. Wagner is also presenting itself, and the Wagner chief is presenting himself as someone who is empathetic. Perhaps a better leader than Vladimir Putin.
Sabotage and reconnaissance forces calmly enter Russia and march, uploading videos, driving their tanks and armored infantry vehicles. Where's the safeguard that they will not enter Moscow? But if this sabotage and reconnaissance force comes to Rubliovka, a prestigious residential area near Moscow, maybe someone wakes up. So far as I understand, nobody gives a damn about the residents of Belgorod region.
From where I am sitting, it looks like Putin's chef is cooking something nasty. A dish that may be too bitter for the Russian president to swallow. Tehran has come into the spotlight after unveiling its new Khyber ballistic missile. The weapon is the fourth generation of the Khorramshahr ballistic missile. Iran says the weapon is purely defensive and will be used for deterrence. And this, by the way, comes after Israel showed concerns of a possible war with Iran. So just how advanced is this new ballistic missile? And why would Iran unveil a weapon days after Israel mentioned a possible war? Our next report getting you the complete story.
This is Iran's 4th generation Khorramshahr ballistic missile. The Khyber missile has a range of 2,000 kilometers. Tehran says that the new missile is capable of reaching Israel and US bases. The missile carries a 1500 kg warhead. It can reach speeds of Mach 16 outside the atmosphere, which is 16 times the speed of sound, and can go till Mach 8 inside Earth's atmosphere. It can also evade radars and cut through the enemy's air defenses. Iran, which has one of the biggest missile programs in West Asia, says that the new missile will advance its defensive missile program. The West has opposed Iran's missile program. Do note the time of the unveiling. It comes 2 days after Israel raised a prospect of action against Iran. Israel's IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi warned of a possible war with Iran over its nuclear program. And this is how Iran reacted.
The Ministry of Defense message to our enemies is that we are determined to defend our country and the achievements of the Islamic Revolution, and we have shown the enemy that they cannot stop the growth and progress of our youth.
And now you have this missile. Iran says the missile program is purely defensive and purely for deterrence. The elephant in the room, though, as Iran unveils its new ballistic missile, one can't help but also ask where the Iran nuclear deal is at the moment. Is it off the table for good? Iran signed the JCPOA, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, in 2015, along with the US, UK, Russia, France, China and Germany. The deal imposes restrictions on Iran's nuclear activities, stopping Tehran from creating a nuclear bomb. Former US President Donald Trump walked out of the deal in 2018. And the rest, they say, is history.
Let's now shift our focus to Australia, where a new trend is slowly emerging. A trend to ban students from certain Indian states. Australia's own media networks are saying this, by the way. Have a look at this report. It was published by the Sydney Morning Herald, the oldest continuously published newspaper in Australia. It says some Australian universities have banned the recruitment of students from some Indian states. And the names of two of them stand out: the Federation University in Victoria and Western Sydney University in New South Wales. These two institutions have apparently prohibited the intake of students from some Indian states. Which Indian states are these? Well, the education agents have been instructed to not consider students from Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And why would Australia not take students from these states? Well, the report says because of fraudulent visa applications. According to Australia's Department of Home Affairs, 1 in 4 applications from these states is deemed either fraudulent or non-genuine. In fact, one of the universities has even flagged the issue in a newsletter by saying, and I'm quoting from it, the university has observed a significant increase in the proportion of visa applications being refused from some Indian regions by the Department of Home Affairs. We hope this would prove to be a short-term issue, but it is now clear there is a trend emerging. And this newsletter was published by the Sydney Morning Herald. It further states that rejection rates for Indian applicants across all Australian universities have soared to their highest level in a decade. And the surge in rejections has accompanied a sharp increase in the volume of applications. And this has prompted fresh calls for regulation of education agents who arrange visas for foreign students. And how should we view this? And are the universities right in banning students from some Indian states due to some fraudulent applications? Should these universities deprive others for the actions of a few? Also, who exactly is at fault here? The students or the agents who facilitate the application process? If we go by the evidence at hand, It is the agents who are at fault here, not the students. And here's why I say this. Applications to Australian universities from international students are almost entirely facilitated by education agents. Universities and colleges pay agents commissions worth thousands of dollars for every student enrollment that they arrange. And this business model has given rise to dodgy agents and dodgy providers. They exploit people from small Indian towns and villages by promising them admissions abroad, and ill-informed students end up paying money and filling applications without even knowing if they fit the bill. And this serves nobody, neither the students nor the universities. So if Australia wants to put an end to this, Australian universities will have to start by identifying who these agents are, what false promises they make, and bring them to task. Banning students for the actions of middlemen may not be the solution. After all, we are talking about the future of thousands of young minds. Are you tired of telemarketing calls? Do spam calls infuriate you? Well, you're not alone. Millions around the world are fed up of these unsolicited calls, frustrated with scammers and telemarketers telling them that they have either won tickets to Hawaii or $1 million in their Rummy account, or worse, deceive them into clicking on links to steal money from their banks. This is a menace, that's a fact. The question is, how exactly do we fight against it? How can we collectively escape this robocall hell? Tonight on Gravitas, we will get you some answers, and we will tell you about solutions that some people in some parts of the world have opted for. We are also running a campaign here on WION World is One. #NoMoreSpam, to pressurize authorities into taking strict action against these companies and fraudsters and stop them from exploiting customers. Have a look at the numbers first. In 2022, American consumers received over 50.3 billion robocalls. I repeat, 50.3 billion. And this, by the way, was despite enforcement efforts by the government regulators. And the same year, America reported a 25% jump in complaints about robocalls. The top complaints included callers pretending to be a government official or a family member. And these were calls to offer warranties, protection plans, debt relief, or technical assistance. And why just America? These unsolicited calls have infiltrated daily lives the world over. Take India, for instance. According to a 2022 survey, 64% Indians get 3 or more spam phone calls daily on an average. 64%. So the problem is large, it's widespread. The question is, how do we deal with it? How do we end the menace of these robocalls? Well, American states have shown the way, and how. Look at this report. A coalition of attorneys from nearly every American state is suing an Arizona-based company. This company provides phone calling services for allegedly facilitating billions of robocalls. The name of this company is Avid Telecom. It has been accused of routing calls on behalf of its clients and finding ways to spoof phone numbers to increase chances of calls being picked up. And this company is accused of transmitting 7.5 billion automated calls to people on the National Do Not Call Registry. The complainants say this practice violates laws prohibiting deceptive telemarketing practices. Let me just quote the most telling excerpt from the complaint. Every day, millions of American consumers receive a barrage of unwanted robocalls that are harassing, annoying, threatening, and malicious. These calls are all scams designed to scare and harm consumers. Other robocalls may not be scams, but are harassing, abusive, and illegal nonetheless. And is this the first of its kind effort? Well, not really. In November 2022, America's Federal Communications Commission moved to block a different internet calling company. The name of this company was Global UC. It was barred from accessing the US phone network. And then in 2020, during the US presidential election, 2 conservative hoaxers were convicted of fraud for making over 85,000 robocalls to black voters in 5 states. And this was part of an effort to suppress the black votes. The calls falsely stated that giving information in mail-in ballots could lead to arrest, debt collection, or forced vaccination. And what do these instances tell you? That not only are scam calls annoying, they can also be used to fool unknowing and unaware people. And which is why regulating companies that are behind these calls is the need of the hour. Let me also pull out a survey from India. It says 8% of Indians get scam calls regarding healthcare services every day. 3% get calls offering a job. 3% get calls providing better mobile data plans. 1% getting calls providing services like RO and AC repair, and 51% get calls selling financial services, while 29% get calls selling real estate deals. And how do they deal with this? Well, most of them block the numbers, but you see, blocking every spam number is not possible. And to help them, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, or TRAI, started the National Customer Preference Register, or NCPR. This initiative is aimed at helping people block spam calls. People can sign up for the service to stop all telemarketing communication or calls from select sectors. But isn't it time that we do more? Should similar lawsuits be launched against telecom companies? Lawsuits on the lines of the one that has been initiated in the United States? Tell us what you think and join our campaign. #NoMoreSpam. Moving on for now, we have told you a lot about artificial intelligence right here on this show. It has, of course, drawn a wave of reactions. Some love its research capabilities. Some fear that AI might snatch away their jobs. AI has recently performed nothing less of a miracle now. It has given a new lease of life to a paralyzed man. Through the magic of AI, a 40-year-old paralyzed man was able to walk and climb stairs. How was this made possible? And is AI going to change the healthcare industry for good? What are the dangers that lie ahead? Our next report getting you the details.
40-year-old Gert Jan Oskam has been granted another chance at life. This is a man who thought he would never walk again. Today, he is walking. What made this possible? Artificial intelligence. Let us explain. The technology is called a digital bridge. It is basically a brain-machine interface which helps to overcome paralysis. The tech uses electrodes which detect neural activity. They can understand when Oskam wants to walk or maybe move a leg. Oskam's thoughts are processed through an algorithm. This algorithm turns the thoughts into pulses, the same type of pulses which we can feel in our nerves. The pulses activate specific nerves in the spine and push the muscles to move the way Oskam wants.
we are recording electrical signal generated by the brain. So we need to decode this signal. And for this, we use artificial intelligence that predict the thought of the patient. And then another artificial intelligence that encode the desired movement into stimulation of the spinal cord.
Now, this is something we saw in Hollywood movies, but AI has brought imagination to life. Now the question arises, what more can it do? Can it also decode brain activity of a coma patient? Can it sense how much of the brain is alive? Experts say that the new tech can only communicate with the brain, with the spine. The digital bridge is only made for leg movement, but scientists say the technology is under development. Miniature devices are being created to help stroke patients. Someday, coma patients may also get a chance to have a new life. But this is just one side of the coin. We need to ask whether we are really safe in the world of AI. Sadly, the answer is no. Take a look at your screen. This is an image of an attack on the Pentagon. It is fake, but the image caused a social media uproar and sent the stock market spiraling. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has warned about the evil that AI possesses. He has compared AI to nuclear energy and synthetic biology. He suggested that a version of the International Atomic Energy Agency will be needed to regulate AI.
It's one of my areas of greatest concern, the more general ability of these models to manipulate, to persuade, to provide sort of one-on-one, interactive disinformation. My worst fears are that the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world.
Tech leaders have sounded an alarm on threats posed by AI. We have seen AI spread misinformation, generate fake images, and impersonate influential people. So what does this mean for the financial sector? The money in your bank. Can AI take over your financial assets? We have one word for you: deep fake. A man fell victim to an AI scam, and over $600,000 were stolen from him. The scammer used deepfake technology and impersonated the victim's friend. This has raised concerns about the potential of AI. You see, there are always two sides to a coin. Although there are lots of good things coming out of AI, can we really trust the tech? The only solution is for authorities and the public to stay on alert. We can hope for AI to have more good than evil. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And for our next story, let me start by asking you, what is the solution to plastic waste? What comes to your mind? It is recycling, is it not? But what if I told you that researchers have found that recycling does quite the opposite? You heard that right. A study has found that recycling releases huge quantities of microplastics. It's actually making the environmental problem even worse. And this study was conducted in the UK, where a team of scientists examined a recycling plant, its wastewater, and the air around the facility. And much to their surprise, they found that the microplastics released in water amounted to 13% of the plastic processed, which means that the plastic facility could be releasing up to 75 billion plastic particles in each cubic meter of wastewater. Now, what exactly are microplastics to begin with? They are tiny plastic particles, less than 5 millimeters long, and they are formed because of the breakdown of larger plastics. As a pollutant, microplastics are harmful to the environment. They harm human and animal health. They are filled with chemicals, including heavy metals and pesticides, and have poisonous effects as well. The study further revealed that microplastics were also present in the air around the recycling facility, that too in high levels. You see, both air and water were affected. Two very crucial elements for basic survival of living organisms. In fact, according to researchers, this facility was a best-case scenario. And why was that? Because the facility was well maintained. it had taken all the necessary precautions and had made solid efforts to install water filtration, which, by the way, is not the case with many recycling facilities. And this raises a serious problem and a question over what other plants are emitting around the world. Further, out of the microparticles emitted, more than 90% of the particles found were under 10 microns and 80% were under 5 microns. Microplastics of these dimensions are easily digestible by different organisms. They are found to be ingested by human beings as well, putting them at a risk of various health hazards like asthma, chronic pneumonia, even autoimmune diseases, cellular damage, even cancer. You see, we recycle plastic in order to protect the environment. But what we might actually be doing is creating another problem or making that problem worse to begin with. So what's the way out? What's the solution here? Do we stop recycling? Well, the answer to that question is no. Researchers suggest that the impact of recycling needs to be evaluated, and potential solutions have to be reworked. Recycling facilities need to be thoroughly kept under check for emissions. And having said that, the real sustainable solution here is to start using much less plastic. Before we move on, there's news just coming in this minute from London. What we are learning at this point is a car has crashed into 10 Downing Street, the official residence of the Prime Minister of the UK. Reports saying at this point that one suspect has been arrested so far. This is news that's just come in. We are awaiting further details and piecing together what we know at this point. A car has crashed into the official residence of the Prime Minister of the UK. Now remember, this is coming less than a week after a car crashed near the White House in Washington, D.C. And now you have reports of a crash taking place at 10 Downing Street in the UK. A car collided with the front gates of 10 Downing Street, and a man has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. The London police issued a statement saying, and I'm quoting, at around 4:20 p.m., a car collided with the gates of Downing Street on Whitehall. Armed officers arrested a man at the scene on suspicion of criminal damage and dangerous driving, and there are no reports of any injuries at this point. And what we're also learning at this point is a Reuters witness has said that there was a small vehicle outside the gate with its doors and trunk open, and cordons were in place along Whitehall. Now, Whitehall is the main road running past Downing Street. This is where several government departments are based, so there is high security along this route at almost any given point. At this point, there are no reports of any injuries, and a man has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving after this incident has been reported of a car crashing into the front gates of Downing Street in London. This, of course, is a developing story. Very limited details are available at this point. The police officially also releasing a statement just moments ago that we have read out to you, talking about that car colliding with the gates of Downing Street. This is on Whitehall. And armed officers have arrested a man at the scene. As we piece together the latest coming in, this on your screen is a statement from the London police that's come in just moments ago. At around 16:20, that's 4:20 p.m., a car collided with the gates of Downing Street on Whitehall. That, of course, is the main stretch of the road running past Downing Street. That's where several government buildings and departments are based. Armed officers arrested a man at the scene on suspicion of criminal damage and dangerous driving. And as of now, there are no reports of any injuries. And we are awaiting further statements and reactions coming in at this point. But let's just tell you that this is an incident that does raise alarm, also taking place right outside the official residence of the Prime Minister of the UK. This, remember, is a heavily fortified area in the heart of London. One suspect has been arrested as initial inquiries are now underway, and we are going to be getting you the latest that's trickling in at this point. A Reuters witness, in fact, saying that there was a small vehicle right outside the gate with its doors and the trunk open. So as of now, it's hard to say what exactly went down. Just a short while back, right outside 10 Downing Street, the residence of the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, that's where his office, also his residence is based. London police saying that a man has now been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. Navneeta Sarkar, a journalist, is with us on the phone line, speaking to us from London. Thanks very much for being here on WION World is One. If you can just help us understand what we know at this point.
See, it was about 4:20 over here in London when this car just collided. You know, the gates of 10 Downing Street are always closed, but it collided there, and there is heavy police presence, obviously, being 10 Downing Street. And but he was arrested. There were armed officers. There are armed officers always around 10 Downing Street. So even though it's a very crowded road in the sense a lot of buses, public buses and things like that move around, and this is a holiday period, you have a lot of tourists. So must have had quite a few people, and the fact that nobody has been hurt is a good sign, because generally there are tourists hanging onto those gates of 10 Downing Street, peeping inside and, trying to get a view of it. So, but they've arrested him, which is a good thing. And as you know, police here is something, they're the kind of people that will never disclose anything. You can't get any information until and unless they have complete information from the person who's been arrested. Now, they're saying it's dangerous driving, but I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine what else it could have been. But the fact that, the hatch was open or what, or maybe because the hatch suddenly opened and he lost control, I don't know what has happened. So we'll have to wait till the police actually, comes up and tells the media what has happened. But because there are no injuries, so I don't feel that the car was on a very high speed, because that place is surrounded by tourists. So there is no way that people wouldn't have been injured if it was on a very high speed. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there is nothing too dangerous, because they'll find out what's in the car and whatever happened. But I don't think, maybe in another couple of hours they might just say who the person is or what they'll give a progress, but I don't think we'll get to know very many details right away, because, I don't know what to say, because he seems like an oldish man. He doesn't seem a young guy. He's like a bald guy with glasses on, and T-shirt and jeans and a pair of trainers on, or what I've seen of the picture of the police taking him away.
Right.
So, and it was a silver hatchback car. So, and it's outside. And you know what? Even outside the gates, there's a lot of, temporary barriers put there because of the tourist season, etc. So there are a lot of barriers there. So this is what it is. It is an elderly kind of guy, not a young man.
Right. Navneeta, we are, of course, awaiting further details to be put out by the London police. And as you said, at this point, very limited information is available. But let's just talk about the fact that this has taken place right outside Downing Street. As you're telling us, this is an area which is usually heavily fortified. It does have the presence of a high number of security officials, also a high number of tourists. So like you said, it is difficult to assume that the car was running at a high speed. But a Reuters witness also talking about how there was a small vehicle outside the gate with its doors and trunk open.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've heard, which is what I'm wondering, why would the doors and the hatchback be open?
Right.
And there is actually really no space over there to stop the car and do something. It is completely packed always, with not only tourists on the footpath, there are buses, cars, everything, and protesters around there. So it is generally a buzzing, hugely crowded place. I mean, when there are protests over there, they have to kind of change the route of buses and all for the protest to pass. So it's that busy. So I can't understand why it was stopping. Had it stopped and the hatchback was open? I can't understand, or something when this doesn't. I mean, at the first view of it, doesn't seem like someone with some intention. I think something went wrong with his car or something. I don't know, but I'm no one to say. It's only after the police tells us what it is.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah. So there's always police presence. So there is it's highly unlikely that they can get through those iron gates of 10 Downing Street, the main gate that enters into the 10 Downing Street area. And there are temporary barriers around the whole place in any case, apart from those iron gates and iron fencing.
Along with a number of tourists, security officials. Navneeta, thanks very much for helping us better understand the initial details that are trickling in at this point. For those of you just joining us, this is news that's just come in a few minutes ago from the UK of a car crashing into the front gates of Downing Street in London. That on your screen is the statement that's been put out by London police just a short while back, as we have been getting you the minute-by-minute updates on this fast-developing story. What we do know at this point through the statement put out by the London police is that this incident took place at 16:20 hours. That's 4:20 p.m. local time in London, when a car collided with the gates of Downing Street. This is on Whitehall, which, by the way, as we were just discussing with Navneeta as well, it's a heavily fortified area, high number of security officials present there, a lot of tourists present there as well. Armed officers then arrested that man at the scene on suspicion of criminal damage and dangerous driving. According to the initial details that have been coming in, a Reuters witness also saying that there was a small vehicle right outside the gate with its doors and trunk open. That, of course, also triggers a number of questions. Cordons were then put in place along Whitehall, which is the main road running past Downing Street. That's where several government departments are based as well. And this is a development that's been reported just a few minutes ago. So very sketchy details, very initial information that's available at this point. But we are awaiting further details to come in from the London police of what exactly went down. At this point, we do know that a man has been arrested on suspicion of criminal damage and dangerous driving, and there are no reports of any injuries after that car collided with the front gates of Downing Street. That is where Rishi Sunak's office and residence is situated, and that man has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. And we will be keeping a close eye on the latest updates coming in from London. At this point, this is a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. As we say goodbye, we're leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching. Good night.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us